Hey guys, Nick here, and today I'm going to be showing you exactly what I would do for every single trick on the 2024 NAKO Advanced Trick List. As an overall tip that you should know for every single one of these tricks, make sure to use your knees at the start and the finish. Using your knees as much as possible, especially during competition, will help slow down the trick and make it a lot easier for you to land. The first trick on the list is Around USA. This trick is actually not very difficult, it's just very long. So it's likely a lot of what you can already do, you just have to nail it a couple times in a row. My main tip for this trick is finding your own rhythm for it. Now it depends on the person. Some people like to find a nice rhythm and go at a fairly fast pace through the entire trick. For me, I like to actually take my time before every single earth turn, making sure the string is not in my way, making sure nothing is going to mess me up as I execute each earth turn. I feel that focusing on the earth turns here are really what are going to make or break you, as they are the most difficult part of the trick and the part that is likely going to mess you up. So play around with it, see which group you fall in, find out if you're somebody who likes to go at a relatively fast pace, or if you're like me, someone who likes to wait before every single earth turn and kind of does a stop and go method. I just said it at the beginning of this video, but especially for this trick, out of all of them, the knees are crucial. Next trick, inward whirlwind. The first thing that I want you to keep in mind is this has the same exact rhythm as a normal whirlwind. It is not a trick that you do all in one go. It is done in a 3-step motion. Flip tama, flip ken, catch spike. Once you've got that in your head, the next most important tip that I want to mention is flipping with your ring finger. You'll notice I have my ring finger practically on the handlestall, if not maybe slightly above. I'm still making contact with it regardless, but I generate practically all of my force with just my ring finger here. I find that for me, this helps make the trick very easy to do, very low effort, and as long as I'm using my knees, timing the flip with my knees coming up and coming down with it, I'm usually able to get a clean Ken flip off and also have a nice earth turn, one that isn't coming too fast, one that is super easy to see. This one is going to likely take some practice, but once you figure it out, once you get the timing down, it should be a walk in the park. Next trick, inward lighthouse flip, trade spike. So for inward lighthouse flips, instead of flipping the Ken completely straight, I like to tilt it off to a slight angle. So after I land it on lighthouse, because I am left-handed, I'll tilt the cup that is facing towards me down diagonally to the right, just a tad. And if you're right-handed, of course, you do it the opposite way. From here, I just simply execute an inward lighthouse flip. I find that if it's tilted off to the side, I can kind of look at it essentially from the side, making it that much easier to see. I'm holding the lighthouse here just like I normally do, 4 of my fingers, middle, index, and thumb on the top, with my ring finger supporting from the bottom. After you get used to tilting the lighthouse and getting the flip down, finally the trade spike. The biggest tip I have for this is making sure the string hold that is coming out of the Ken is actually facing away from your hand. So you want it to be on the opposite side of your dominant hand. For me, since I'm left-handed, I want the Ken string hold to be facing out to the right, just so that it doesn't get in my way and doesn't interfere with the trade spike. To get a good trade spike, especially in competition, one that I really don't want to miss, I actually bring my pinky onto the tama, so now I'm holding the tama with all 5 of my fingers. I just feel like that this helps me keep a sturdy grip on the tama and have complete control over the trade spike. Downspike, Sara base cup, airplane, J-stick. For the downspike, of course, downspike it however you'd like in your best, most comfortable grip. But from here, I personally make a grip switch before I go to the base cup. I adjust from downspike grip, move my entire hand, all of my fingers down the Ken towards the base cup, and it looks something like this. From here, I ghost the tama up to base cup. As you can see, no movement at all from the tama. I find this to be the best way to get the base cup without any hindrance from the string. No matter how you do it, ideally, you want the ball to end facing straight up or towards your dominant hand, the one that you're playing with. Right before you go for the airplane, make sure your fingers are holding the top part of the base cup. You want that transition from the base cup to the ball to be as smooth as possible, so you want to be practically holding it already. Simply just time this one with your knees and you should be good. And then finally, for the end of the trick, it's just a simple jumping stick. Next trick is handlestall spike. This one is fairly simple. You're going to be wanting to hold the Ken very normally, just like you would for a normal dry spike. And as you go for landing the tama on the handlestall, you want to make sure that you catch it at the highest point. So the same technique for bird, same technique for nightingale, same technique for any pull-up stall. You're going to want to apply it here. Hold Ken straight up, spike pointing face up, and then as you initiate the pull-up, as soon as the ball gets above your hand, above the Ken, you want to tilt it to the side and land it on the handlestall. Once again, time the pull-up with your knees, catch at the highest point, use your knees as a cushion for the landing, and you should be able to get this one pretty consistent. Next one is switch airplane jumping stick. A common mistake that I often see when people just start playing with their opposite hand is playing too high, meaning that you're actually holding the tama up to your head or maybe even past your head, maybe even above it. You want to make sure that even though this is your opposite hand, even though it might be uncomfortable at first, to actually continue to hold it at chest height, just like you would with your dominant hand. So once you've got that down, I would next switch the positioning of your legs. You're now holding it with your opposite hand. So now for me, because I'm holding it in my right hand, I'm going to put out my right leg first. I'm just going to put it out ever so slightly like this. And then here, I'm ready for the airplane. Just like a normal airplane, I'm holding the tama straight up, I'm holding the Ken in front of my back leg, and I'm getting ready to spike it. From here, it's just like a normal airplane. Use your knees, track the spike, and then once you get into the positioning for the jumping stick, make sure the cups are actually facing towards you, not outwards and to the side. This way you'll have a nice clean jumping stick, and even though it's with your opposite hand, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Next trick is downspike fast hands. So because this is a fast hands, I want all of my fingers on the Ken, all of them on the bottom of it. This way, when I do the fast hands, the actual distance between my hand that's holding the Ken and the tama is super, super small, making the transition almost seamless. So I personally like to hold the Ken like this. I like to have the cups facing outwards to the side, and I like to grab the cup that is facing towards my dominant hand. From here, you can pull up how you'd like. I recommend pulling up inwards towards yourself so you can see the tama hole coming up towards you. For a fast hand, I think it is very crucial to see as much of the trick as you possibly can. So pulling up towards yourself inverted like so is going to help you get the best chance possible at actually connecting. Also, make sure you catch the fast hand at its highest point. You are doing a grip switch at the end of the day, so catching it at its highest point will allow for you to have that room, have that time to make the fast hand switch efficiently. I think with just a little practice that this trick could become something that anyone can be confident on. Candle underbird over valley, trade spike. Couple key tips on this one. One, I prefer to swing for the first candle underbird. I find that if I do a swing candle underbird instead of a regular pull up, the string has less of a chance at becoming tangled and messing me up. So I first perform a swing candle underbird, and then for the over valley, I always like to do an earth turn. I found that through my experience, doing an earth turn over valley has always led me to be most consistent. I know to some it does seem a little more difficult at first, but I found that I've been able to get the over the valley a lot more consistent compared to just hopping it over. Finally, for the trade spike, I recommend pushing the Ken forward in the same way that the tama is going to do an earth turn for the spike. So both the Ken and the tama are going to take flight at the same time once you do this. Through a lot of trial and error and through my personal experience, this is the best way I've found to swap trade spike out of a far side underbird. Next trick, lunar flip in. This one is super simple, but here's how I do it. I hold my lunars like this. I make a C shape with my hand, holding it with my thumb, my index, my middle finger, and finally my ring finger at the bottom, coming up for support. This is going to be a simple lunar flip, so I actually like to pull up the lunar on the tama hole. I think this sets me up the best for the final spike, which I actually think is the hardest part about this trick. So once you land the first lunar, having it sit right on top of that tama hole, you want to use your knees, come up with your whole body, initiate the flip, and then make sure you're cushioning the landing again with your knees as you come down. Since the tama hole is already positioned directly underneath the cup, you're not gonna have to adjust your wrist, you're not gonna have to adjust the positioning of the tama. You can just go ahead and spike it with the current grip you're already holding lunar in. Airplane double jumping stick. This is a trick that any player can miss no matter how good they get. But if I were to pull this in a competition, this is what I would do. First, I would complete the normal airplane, get one of the cups facing towards my body, and then from here, I actually like to generate all of the flip with my knees. And you don't have to flip this one too high, you don't have to actually be super gentle and flip it super slow either. What I found that works best for me is flicking the Ken out, making it come up to head height. So as you'll see, that's not super high at all. And I'm actually aligning the movement of my whole body with the flip. So as it comes up, I come up. And as it comes down, I come down with my knees. For this trick especially, it's really all in the knees. I flick it up barely to head height, I catch it down by my chest, and I find that just about this speed works the best for me. Of course, this is just a plain difficult trick. It's going to take a lot of trial and error, a lot of attempts to go from luck to timing, and then to actually be able to see the flip all the way through. But I'm confident that if you follow these tips and use your knees, you'll be able to get the hang of it in no time. The next trick on the list is axe. Thankfully nowadays with these bigger size kanamas, axe has become a very, very doable trick. It's going to be super similar to lighthouse. You want to pull it up very straight. You don't have to get a big swing on this one. The Ken doesn't even have to be at that big of an angle. For me, when I do this trick, I find that my Ken is facing just so slightly towards myself so that it allows me to actually be able to catch underneath the big cup. But you'll notice I'm not doing this big heavy swing out in front of me. I'm actually keeping it very, very tight, very close to my body, similar to a lighthouse. Of course, this also means you're gonna have to tilt your tama ever so slightly towards yourself as well. But I think this one is going to come quick for a lot of you, and it's going to be very, very doable very, very quickly. For the final in, of course, just use your knees, come up, come down with it, and you should be good. Spacewalk, one turn in. This trick has actually gotten a lot more difficult over the years because of the use of long strings, but it is still very much possible. What you're going to want to do is hold the Ken in your dominant hand, tama in your opposite hand, and have the Ken string hole facing you, facing your own body. You're going to be wanting to hold the Ken with all 5 of your fingers. Notice how I'm not touching the cups. Notice how I'm just holding the handle of the Ken this time. And so once you've got that in position here, you're going to start out like this, holding the Ken and tama straight across from each other, and then you initiate the spacewalk. So you push outwards, throw it up, catch the ball, one turn, and spike it. One thing that I think is very important for the spacewalk is catching it overhand. I see some people sometimes catching it underhand, but this actually makes the spacewalk in the direction of the Ken come a lot less consistently. And I think overall, when going for that final spike, it's just going to feel a little bit more awkward. So you're going to want to throw both the Ken and tama up with enough speed and power so that you're actually able to have enough time to catch the tama overhand and get a good grip on it for the final spike. This is likely going to take some practice and you're likely to drop it a lot. So make sure you're outside playing over some grass. Lastly, once you've mastered the catch of the tama, catching it overhand, you now just have to get that one turn in to come cleanly. This is where a lot of trial and error comes in. It depends on the person, but the flip of the final one turn in is going to be generated by the speed of your spacewalk and also the tug of your wrist. But how I learned it was simply using my knees, figuring out over time just how much power I needed to get a clean one turn in. And then from there, I started to focus on spiking it. So first, get consistent at getting that actual one turn airplane to come around all the way. And then from there, once you're good at that, focus on the final spike. For the final spike, this is something I personally do. I like to shift my body towards the side, towards the way of the spacewalk I'm actually throwing, as I believe this helps the Ken stay straight and give me a clean one turn airplane to go for as I'm going for the final spike. This trick is super difficult, probably one of the hardest on this list, but just know that if you master it and get consistent, you're likely to take a point. All right, guys, the last trick, one turn swap spike. You can do this trick 3 different ways. I'm gonna show you how I do it first. I hold the tama just like a normal airplane grip in this C shape with 4 of my fingers, pinky hanging out loosely at the bottom. And from here, I'm going to swing the Ken up, but I'm going to wait. You wanna be holding this tama as long as possible. So I wait until the Ken does a full 360 until the spike is almost facing up yet again. It does a 1 full rotation. And then this is when I make the swap. This is when I let go of the tama, catch the Ken, and spike it. I also recommend giving the Ken a slight twist when you're pulling it up. This way the Ken will come up straight and it'll be super easy to catch when you're making that transition from the tama to the Ken. Finally, for the swap, you're going to be doing a half earth turn. If you hold it like me, you hold it like this. All this requires is a slight half earth turn to connect the spike. It's going to be very gentle, super quick. And in my opinion, this is the easiest method I found to execute this trick. Another way you can do this is with stump plane grip. So you're actually going to be holding the tama facing down, just like a stump plane. And the only difference here is now, instead of doing a half earth turn, just like I was before, you actually do a full earth turn. So you're going to swing the Ken up, wait until it does a full rotation, release the tama, give it a little more force so it actually comes all the way around doing a full earth turn itself, and then you're going to connect the 2 pieces together. Finally, the last way I've seen people do this is actually holding the tama by the tama hole, meaning your fingers are over the tama hole. So evidently you're going to be holding the tama sideways, facing outwards, opposite of you, and having your index and middle finger hover over the tama hole itself. The technique, of course, is the same on this one as it is for all of these variations. This is just another way of executing the trick. This is one of the more difficult tricks on the list. It's going to take a lot of practice, but I found a lot of success doing it this way, so I hope it helps you too. If there was something I didn't cover in this video and you would like more specific tips on a certain trick, or just want to know how to compete better in general, join the Gallagher Kanama School. We meet in there twice a week. We have a lot of fun jamming together, discussing anything related to Kanama, helping learn from each other, teaching each other certain things, especially for competitions like this. So if that is something that interests you, I'd love to see you in there. Once again, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.